Barbara Corcoran, thank you so much for joining us. Now, it's no secret that small businesses have had quite a hit from the pandemic. And I'm just wondering quickly, how are you characterizing the issue and the main pressure points?
Well, I would say right now, most of the damage is behind us. Most of the businesses went down early in the pandemic, and the rate of closure has diminished substantially. It doesn't mean that there aren't problems out there and everybody's worried about what might be coming down the pike, but the confidence level of the businesses that were left standing is, I'd say, maybe double or triple it was 6 months ago. Everyone I speak to feels optimistic, not because they necessarily trust the business environment, but they trust themselves more because they've had to pivot and change and make ends meet somehow, and they came through it. So the pride alone is increasing their confidence with the upcoming year. Everybody's more confident.
And so you're also seeking to help entrepreneurs with your Business Unusual webinar series. So tell us what the format is and what people can expect to learn from it.
It's a great series, and it's sponsored by AT&T Business. And what the intent of the series is to give practical information to every size business as to how they could succeed better and build a better business faster. And that's what every business person wants to do. It also teaches them how to spend their money wisely on technology, because there's so much new technology out that is very inexpensive to buy, but people don't have the knowledge to make the choices. So in this webinar series, which is we have a different topic every time. Today is, how do you bring your customer close to you? How do you get them to trust you more? How do you get them to want to buy new product? Not force them to buy, but they're in love with you and they want to buy more stuff from you. And so we give real practical tips through the eyes and the mouth of great experts who know the arena very, very well, depending upon what the subject is. If you can't tune in when the webinar is live, you can catch any of the webinars clearly stating the subject matter by just going on 888-BARBARA, and you can see it at your own leisure.
Absolutely. The courses will be available on demand. And so I hear what you're saying about established small businesses, but I want to know, with so many vacant storefronts right now, is now a good time to start a business?
Well, if you're in the retail space and you want to lease a storefront, I live in New York City, and I can tell you the storefront rents have come down by 40 to 60%. Is that an advantage when you're opening a storefront? You betcha it is. The other advantage you have right now that you wouldn't have seen only 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, is that people who have retail spaces are no longer keeping their inventory in stock. They're keeping them online. So the storefront is really almost like a fishing hook to get the customer in the door, fall in love with your merchandise, your personality, and then you ship not from your store because you don't want to pay the rent on it anymore. You ship from your warehouses that are very cheap online. And so you have huge advantages today starting a business that would not have been available to you. Cheap rent and not the need for great space. So it's better to start a retail business today 2 to 1 than it was even 3 years ago.
Now, I want to switch gears here for a moment, Barbara. You've been on Shark Tank for several years, and traditionally, Black and Latinx women who are among the largest, fastest growing groups of small business owners, starters. Now, there were a couple of sisters who you invested in who created the Luna Magic line. Traditionally, women like them have not had access to capital like this, of course. And so I'm wondering what's happened with Luna Magic since appearing on that season of Shark Tank.
Well, first of all, Luna Magic was only on last season's Shark Tank, so they've had a year's worth of running distance. But I can tell you, when those two sisters walked on the set, they were in charge. The Sharks weren't in charge. They had invested their own money. They hadn't borrowed any money. Each one knew exactly what their specialty was, and they were opposite to each other in their talents. And so when they sat on that Shark Tank set doing their pitch, every shark there was like, whoa, blown away. I was the lucky shark that got to bid on the business. And probably if I were to think of all the businesses I've invested in the 13 years on the show, they would go up on my list as needing the least help.
Crunch-based data showed that Black female startup founders have received less than 0.5% of total venture capital spent in the U.S. so far this year. And so I'm wondering, what are you thinking of maybe even having in practice already doing to help women like them get access to capital?
You know, a lot of what stands in first of all, you're entirely right. In fact, if you look at the Black and brown owned businesses in the last year versus the white owned businesses, their rate of failure have doubled. 40% of Black and brown owned businesses in the last year went out of business. Only 20% of the white owned businesses have. When I work with different groups of business owners, I find that the major difference is knowledge of access. You know, a white kid has a white parent who's connected to the right guy, and they do an introduction. The minorities don't know where they can access mentorship. They're not as familiar with the SBA that offers mentors. It offers funding help. It offers classes on how to write a business plan. They'll virtually write the plan for you. They also don't know that the local banks each have a specialized program of outreach to the minority businesses, and they don't have enough people applying. So I think making people aware of the resources is the number one thing that needs to be done. And I'm not sure what the solution to that is, because I hear no advertising on that. I don't see any billboards on that. I don't see any signs on the buses in the city streets. And so how is someone to know that unless somebody's going to give them an education? And to find the education, you have to get to the right people in the first place. Yeah, it's not fair. It's improving, but it's not improving to the degree it should, considering how many resources are out there. Not at all.